This is Garrett Fry, the Cityscape Sequence Lead for 3D Digital Map Painting, and we're taking a look at shot C100. So we take a look, we start off on the right and we go to the left, and we can see that we have this big building in the foreground. So this big building needs to be replaced, and so you can try a couple different options. You can chop it off right here and replace it with a completely new building up at the top, or you can try to go through here and replace the base of it as well. It depends on the reference images that you're going to be using. But if you do that and you have some movement in the trees, it can be a bit sticky because you'll have to roto around these trees. So it might be easier just to keep the base, or if there's not a lot of movement in the plate, then you can still the movement that is actually happening. So like you grab this tree or a portion of this tree, and that becomes a matte painting patch that goes on top, and it's just static. It's completely static. And then maybe it blends into some movement that's happening over here. The idea behind that is maybe there's something that's preventing these leaves from moving, like something that's blocking the wind, and then there's some wind going over here. And if it's subtle enough, then it's going to be an okay thing to do. So other things that you'll want to do, you want to get rid of this guy. He's a very iconic, and so there's a space here to put buildings here, and then also this guy here. Probably want to leave these alone. They're kind of small and they're in the background, so hitting these guys here are going to be your best bet. So be selective about, you don't have to make this change, this change, this change, this change all in this shot. You could do a couple of them and evaluate and say, hey, is that changing this enough where it looks like a new location? And it's kind of, you're using that judgment, and then you can present your idea with that. Say, hey, I changed this shot, now it looks like a new location. I've changed it enough. So while you're doing this, you just need to really make sure that you are charting out your perspective lines. With this building being more in the foreground, you can have the most beautiful paint on it and the light and everything works well. But if the perspective is wrong, then it will never look right. So make sure your perspective is working out really well on that, and for all of these buildings. And when you are looking at this, you need to consider the other shots in that sequence. So there's a C101 here that has the different lighting for this shot that you're going to have to use. All of the same elements that you use for this shot, you're going to have to use for C101. So make sure you're making those considerations. And actually, when you are putting in your buildings, I would test it in C101 just to make sure it's working. And you can do a really quick grade on it to see if you can push it into that area that you need it to be in. And then go back to C101 and start working on the final matte painting for that. Make sure that before you jump into these shots, you download the image library. The image library consists of nearly 500 raw images. That's 2.27 gigs of buildings from 5 different cities from around the world: Sydney, Wellington, Adelaide, San Francisco, and New Orleans. So there's a huge variety of buildings to choose from. The photo reference includes buildings under all different lighting conditions and angles, so it pays off to familiarize yourself with the materials you're going to use to successfully execute these shots.